Hi, I'm Justin and welcome back to Just Shaves. For this video, I'm going to do a side-by-side shave comparison of the Merkur Progress and the Gillette 195, also known as the Gillette Fatboy. I have a previous video that I'm going to link in the description where I already flew over some of the design differences between these two razors, as well as providing some context and history behind these two. So for this video, I'm just going to jump right into the side-by-side shave. So I'll link the other description where the other video where I provided some background for these two razors in the description. This video, I'm just going to jump right into the shave. I'm going to do the Gillette Fatboy on the right side of my head and the Merkur Progress on the left side of my head. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open them up to their highest setting for my first pass and then the lowest setting for my second pass. That way I can really just try to compare and contrast these two razors. I'm going to be using Tweet DuraSharp blades in both of them, so they'll both have a fresh blade for this comparison. And again, I'm just going to have the Fatboy opened up to level 9 and the Progress is going to be opened up to level 5, and we'll see which one works best for me. Going to be tackling about 3 days worth of growth here. Very familiar and like both of these razors, but I just haven't done the side-by-side to see which one, at the end of the day works better for me. So with that, I'm just going to pause right here. I'll get lathered up and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back and all lathered up for my first pass. I'm going to be using the Gillette 195, aka the Fatboy, on the right side of my head. I have this set to level 9, which is the highest setting this goes to. The Merkur Progress I'm going to be using on the left side. I have it set to level 5. I'll put an asterisk on this being its highest setting because you can actually continue turning past 5. Mine goes up to I think 12, which I don't even think is a practical shaving level for anyone at that point, just because of how monstrously large the gap is. But for intents and purposes, I'll be comparing level 5 to level 9 with the Gillette Fatboy. Very similar length, feel very similar size in the hand. The Merkur Progress comes in around 90 grams, whereas this Fatboy comes in at around 80 grams. I will say the Fatboy does have a little bit better textured handle that just feels a little bit more grippy. And then one other perk with the Fatboy is it's actually twist to open. So loading the blade off camera was just a little bit easier to do because of this. But with that, let's jump right into it. I'm already lathered up, but I'll just do a quick little touch up here. And apologies for the glare of the window. Okay. This is actually the first time I've used it on 9. I typically use it around 7 or 8 for my first pass, and then I choke it down a couple levels for my second pass. That's actually one of my favorite things with adjustable razors is you can have all of that efficiency on the first pass, but then you can bump it down for the sake of saving your skin some trouble on the second pass. Well. Okay. So believe it or not, I think I just caught myself with the exposed blade tabs right here on the Fatboy. The Merkur Progress also has exposed blade tabs, and as a head shaver, I'm not a huge fan of it for this reason exactly. But I'll pause right here. Cut over to the Progress side here. I feel just a little bit of stiction on the top cap, but not enough to prevent this from being a very smooth shaver. This is still to this day one of the smoothest razors I have. This is actually my go-to travel razor. I typically use it around level 4, 4.5 on my first pass. And so far through this first pass, I'm honestly getting a very comparable shave between the two razors here. I'll relather the back of my head. I'm gonna cut over to the other mirror. Okay, so sticking with the Fatboy on the right side of my head here. Again, all the efficiency I could ask for on level 9. Not the most aggressive or the most efficient razor, but it's more than the average person's gonna need at this level. Very fun, easy first pass right here with the Fatboy. And I will say one of the gripes I have with it is having to rinse it out after you're done. I've noticed no matter what, I always have some, no matter how much I'm rinsing, I still have some hairs that kind of get trapped inside this twist open head. Which, isn't the worst thing, and it isn't worse than a lot of other razors, but the Progress is just one of the easiest rinsing razors out there. So I have no issues with this one at all. Yeah, I have some slight stiction here, but still overall very smooth shaving. Okay, I'll pause right here, I'll get rinsed off, and I'll be back for my second pass. All right, I'm back and all lathered up for my second pass. For this go around, both the razors are gonna be set to their most mild setting. I'm gonna stick with the Progress on the left side of my head and the Fatboy on the right side of my head, but I will start off with the Progress first. A couple of key takeaways from the first pass. I think overall closeness was, comparable between the two razors, maybe a little bit closer on the Progress side, but really not enough to write home about just in terms of shave closeness. I did notice the handle of the Fatboy is just a little bit grippier, feels a little bit better in the hand. However, I much preferred the Progress in terms of how well it rinses out during the shave. The Fatboy, I noticed quite a bit of gunk kind of gets stuck inside these doors here and also between the blade and the safety bar. Not a deal breaker, but if I was picking between the two, I like that feature of the Progress better. And then I also don't love how much of the blade tabs are exposed here on the Fatboy. So I don't think I drew any blood, but I did nick myself a little bit on the back of my ear with the Fatboy just now. So with that, let's jump right into the second pass here. So I typically, on my first pass, use both of these razors at levels a little bit less than what I just did. I had them opened up on their relatively highest settings. And then I also don't use them on this mild of a setting either. But we'll see how this goes. There we go. And at this level, like, I'm hardly picking up anything. Definitely very low risk of nicks or cuts though, so there's that trade-off. Yeah, so far level 1 on the Progress. This is milder than I like. Which is a good thing. Again, if you're buying an adjustable razor, you want to have a whole range of options, particularly because if you want something that's going to be guaranteed to work for you, and what's too mild for me might be just right for someone else. So I'm not going to fault the razor for being milder than I like on its obvious lowest setting. But yeah, not a huge fan of it on level 1. Okay, I'm gonna try the Fatboy on level 1 now. Yeah, and much of the same. There you go. I feel like I'm hardly cutting anything at this point. It's almost like I'm just scraping the lather off. So, yep, this is kind of frustrating for me also. But things we do for science. Okay. So I very well might need to do a third pass that I don't typically like doing here. Progress on the left side of my head. Maybe getting a couple of whiskers here, but this is more mild than I care for. Typically with the progress, I usually go like 4, 4.5 on my first pass, and I go down to like 3, sometimes 2.5, 2, all the way down to 1 is just, you know, the gap's too small to be really effective for me personally. I'm not convinced this is working at all. I think I'm just squeegeeing the lather off my head. Again, not a fault of the razors, just a fault of this setup I decided to choose today. So, okay, you know what? I'm gonna rinse off here and I'll be back with my final thoughts between these two razors. I think I might have missed a couple patches just going down to these really mild settings on my second pass, but I'll clean that up after this video. I'll be right back. All right, back with my final thoughts. Ending shave results, actually a serviceable shave on both sides, and that's primarily going to be the shave I did on the higher setting on the first pass. Bumping both of the two razors down to their lowest setting, I don't think was very helpful or effective for my second pass, but at the end of the day, I actually got pretty close to the shave results I'd be looking for. I will do another cleanup pass right now because I think I missed a couple spots just going through, but overall, both of these razors can deliver. Picking between the two, I would probably lean towards the Progress personally. One of the factors here is I like how fluid the adjustability is. You don't have to pause, open up the doors, and change the settings. And if level 5 isn't enough razor for you, you can continue adjusting upward. Also like the rinsability factor here. The Fatboy, I think, is just a little bit easier to get hairs and soap and cream stuck inside the razor, and it just takes a little bit longer to rinse out. And I also don't love the exposed tabs here on the Fatboy. So at the end of the day, I got very comparable shaves between the two, and these are two razors that were made in the 50s and are, still able to compete with all the modern designs that are coming out. So can't really lose with either. I think I like the Progress just a little bit more. And this is still my designated travel razor, and it's gonna be staying in my collection for years to come. So with that, I'll call this job well done. I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.